So, good morning, students. Today we are going to do the topic comparing three sectors. As you know, we have already done that economy in India is divided into three bases. Number one, on the basis of nature of activity. Number two, on the basis of working conditions. Number three, on the basis of ownership. On the basis of nature of activity, there are three categories: primary, secondary, and tertiary. So today we are going to do the topic comparing the three sectors. But before talking about this, we should know what are final goods and services and what are intermediate goods and services. The goods and services which are directly consumed by the consumer, which are bought directly from the market by the consumer, they are called as final goods and services. For example, the clothes which you wear and you go to the market and buy them, the shoes which you buy, the TV, the car, these all come in the category of final good. Whereas the intermediate goods and services are those which are required to do the production. For example, if we have to buy a cotton shirt, for making cotton clothes, we need cotton, we need electricity, we need transportation. So these are intermediate goods and services which are used up during the production, which are processed further, whereas final goods and services are those which cannot be processed further and directly bought by the consumer. Now, how do we compare three sectors? For each sector, it's not easy to compare if we compare directly in terms of production. For example, let's assume the primary sector is producing 1000 kgs of wheat, secondary sector is producing 100 cars, and tertiary sector is producing, let's say, the services of school or hospital. How do you compare? We cannot compare 1000 kg of wheat to 100 cars. So what we do, we take the value of it. We count the value of this. For example, 1000 kg into 10 rupees per rupees of wheat comes out to be 10,000. 10 car, if one car is of 8 lakhs, 10 cars ki price le li. So that is how we do it. We take the value instead of the quantity of or the measurement of units produced. Then we count only final goods and services, because if we do not do that, we will be counting same thing again. For example, if we have an example of biscuit packet, let's assume a biscuit packet is of 60 rupees. That 60 rupees include the cost of wheat flour, sugar, oil, salt, transportation, electricity, labor, the packaging, marketing, advertisement, everything is included in that. And if we add these things again, that will be giving us wrong estimation, which will be more than the original production. So therefore, we count only final goods and services. Now the next topic is GDP, the gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is sum total of all three sectors in terms of value in the time period of 1 year. In 1 year, how much production has taken place in each sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary, the sum total of its value is called as GDP. It is calculated for a year and it is done by the Central Finance Ministry. The Central Finance Ministry gets the data from different departments of union territories as well as the states. For example, if we talk about the places you go, you buy things, the factories fill in their GST, the dining out, you people go out, you pay GST there. So government collects data from different departments of the state governments as well as the union territories and then estimates GDP. GDP can only be estimated. It cannot be calculated exactly. Why? Because there are many people who do not even they are not telling the government that they are working. For example, the maids coming to our houses, they are not filing income tax, neither they have any record of showing their employment, and that is why GDP is always calculated. The next topic is the shift of sectors in terms of employment and production. If we look around the world, all the developed countries of the world, there is a fixed pattern which has been observed. Number one, this pattern has been observed in two cases, in terms of employment and in terms of production. That is, if we see that which sector was the highest employer, which sector was the highest producer, there is a shift in that. In the early stages of development, primary sector was the highest employer as well as the highest producer. The reason was there was no industrialization. The primary occupation of the people was agriculture. No doubt there were craftspersons, there were soldiers, there were people who were into handicrafts, into trading, but the percentage was very less. Highest employer and highest producer was primary. Then after industrialization, when industries came up, the shift took place from primary to secondary. The secondary sector became important. That means in comparison to primary, the more number of people were employed in secondary sector, and the production of secondary sector was also more. And if we look at the economies now, the tertiary sector has become the most important. The shift has further taken place from secondary to tertiary. The service sector is the most contributing sector in the economy, in the GDP of the developed countries. It is the highest producer in the developed countries. So as we see from this, if we talk about sectors in terms of employment and production, in the beginning stages, primary was the most important. That means the employment and the production was the highest in primary sector. Later on, with the industrialization, factories were set up. Secondary was the highest employer and producer. And then the last, if we talk about, tertiary sector became the most important sector in the history of developed countries. And now we will see in the next topic that how this shift has taken place in India, or has it taken place or not, or is it only in case of employment, or is this shift only in case of production in India. Thank you, and that's all for today.